Hello, welcome to Coach One Sports. Yours truly, Coach Kevin Bull Jones, back in the saddle. We're about to talk about the national championship game, University of Georgia Bulldogs against the TCU Horned Frogs. And I got two great friends I brought in to talk about this game. That's going to be, I think, one of the best college football games of the season. Can't wait. I can't wait to share with you all their thoughts on how these two teams got here and who's going to, and we are going to come up with a prediction. All three of us are going to give our predictions on who's going to win this game. I've been holding out for so long, but I needed my brothers from Northern Mothers coming in. So first one I want to go ahead and mention, and let me tell you this. If you enjoy this show and you know how we're about to get down, make sure that you subscribe. Hit that button, subscribe, like, comment, and you know I'm going to respond to the comments. Now, with that said, my friend, my brother from another mother, one of the legendary coaches of high school football in the nation. I have the privilege of not only coaching against him, but him being a great friend of mine. And I just want to welcome him back to the show, Coach Russ Prost. Good to hear from you, my brother.
Man, thank you for having me, Coach. I appreciate being on with you. We had a ball last time, and should be a lot of fun today. So, again, got a lot of respect for you and this show, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, like I said, this show could not go on without you on here because I wanted to talk about how this thing is going to go down and who are these teams, the strategic parts. And sports fans, y'all know how I like to do it. I like to bring in real coaches that coach the game and know the game to the highest of the levels and what we're talking about, this college football going on. So also my other brother and down in Miami, defensive coordinator extraordinaire, won a national championship at state championship at Miami Norland. I'm going to get it right, Coach. Miami Norland, back in the day. Did I get it right this time, Coach?
You got it right.
Yeah.
You got it right.
Joel Williams. Hey, my brother, good to have you here. Happy New Year to both of you all. And it's great to hear from you, Joel. I know you're in the midst of dealing with the All-Star games down there in South Florida. I know that's a gala spectacle in itself, private school, public school, kids, everybody getting together. Coach Joel Williams is at Pace. Is it Pace Academy? It's not Pace Academy, but I just want to get it right. I know it's a private high school. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out.
Senior Pace High School. Senior Pace High School.
Great.
We're actually private. We're private.
Gotcha. Well, so here's what we got, fellas. It is TCU against those Georgia Bulldogs. And so many people didn't think this was going to happen on one of those teams. I myself, I had my own thoughts about who should have been the top four teams in the Final Four to go to the playoffs, but I must admit, because I have to do it, it's the coach in me, I have to admit, the fan part of me thought some other teams should have been in, and I didn't think TCU belonged, but the coach in me knew that TCU belonged, and they proved their worth their weight in gold to make it to where they are. So I'm going to start off with you, Coach Prost, because I want to know your thoughts on what made TCU get to this point, to the national championship game. I need you to break it down for me.
Well, first, I know Sonny Dykes really well. He recruited my school. I used to go see him a lot. We spent a lot of time together off and on for years. I've not talked to Sonny in a few years, but, the one word that comes to me from Sonny's team is just toughness. Just pure toughness and resiliency. If that would be a second word, I would use toughness, one, resiliency, number two. And the third word I would use would be composure or poise, one and the same. I think that those teams are TCU. I'm like you. I didn't have them in the top four. I didn't think they was a top four team. And I don't mind, saying I thought that Georgia should obviously be in, and I knew that Michigan should be in. And then I thought Ohio State. And then I'm a little biased, but I thought Alabama should have got in there.
Me too.
because of Bryce Young and just how good he is.
Right.
And then once I saw the Alabama game on Saturday versus Kansas State and how they dominated that game, I said, Lord, TCU finna get blown out, guys.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fixing to be. I even texted a friend of mine that was a partial Georgia fan. He's more of a Georgia Tech fan, but he lives there in Atlanta. And I said, hey, TCU finna get embarrassed. And I was also wrong. And I should have known that what Sonny has done. He's gone into Texas. He has revived. TCU wasn't completely broke now.
Right.
Gary Patterson had a good culture, especially defensively there. And I think with that,
You don't have it on your phone?
I think with Gary was the lone coach that stayed at TCU long ago when the whole staff left. He was one of the only guys that stayed. He became the head coach there after the bowl game. And
Right.
so he built a pretty good culture there. Well, when you got to what TCU is now, Sonny's come in there. He's kept that culture, created his own culture. And, a lot of people think of Sonny Dykes. They think, well, the Mike Leach tree, throw. But what Sonny's done a really good job with is he's really built a balanced offensive attack with quarterback runs and still throws the football.
Right.
But the ability of him to run the football, be balanced, RPO game, all the things they do. And they're just tough guys, tough kids. Right. And he's been able to recruit Texas well. He's been able to go in there and recruit Texas. He still has connection. Now, he coached at California.
Correct.
At Cal. So he has connections in that area out there. So he's able to sprinkle in some players from California with the hard-nosed, tough kids out of Texas. And he's built a dadgum culture there that's just built on those three words I gave you. And lo and behold, he's sitting in the national championship game.
Wow. I tell you, Coach, one thing that I marvel at with him is, and I've been watching them all season, and I guess the reason why I was I had an ear and an eye to them is because I like you, I'm familiar with the work that Coach Patterson did there, and TCU has never been TCU and Baylor have been the teams that I just thought in that conference that they didn't get enough credit. It's the glamour is not there for those teams,
right?
And in the media deal, that's the glamour part. But I got a chance to watch them every week. They had 5 games where they were behind and they had to come back in the second half and win. A couple of them on final drives, and that whole mantra of "don't flinch." I thought that was something that they did not flinch when tough things got tough in the game.
Right.
And for me, I'm watching the body language of the players when they're down in their games. I was at the Texas Bama game, and I thought that Texas got too, they got too high on that game and didn't. They had that lull. Of course, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You get so high. It's great to play with emotion, but don't be emotional. Well, Texas, they burned themselves out, and then at the end, just from some coaching things they done in the last drive that Bryce Young had was reason why the things that he did well he stopped doing in that last drive. And Bryce Young was able to do some things, get down the field, and they won the game. Well, I only say that because watching the ebb and flow of the coaches and their ability to pinpoint and keep those kids focused on the next play was truly poetry in motion. That was something that I really thought that, when you and I watch a game, we see a different game from everybody else on TV. And,
We do.
I'm looking at how if that kid gets burned and that defensive back gets burned on a deep ball and he gets a PI call or he gets a PI called against him, is that coordinator going to go back to that kid? Is he going, did he get in the kid's head? Or did he go on and just went from the script of what he had already prepared to run? Did he break from that script and say, okay, let's attack this kid again? Those type of things. And I watched that TCU team just become so poker faced, and I watched the coaches and their ability to get those kids to know that, listen, let's just go to the next play. Matter of fact, don't even look at the scoreboard. Let's just play football.
That's right.
I've been around Coach Saban quite a bit, and I know you have as well. And that's one of his favorite lines is, listen, just stop looking at the scoreboard and go play football. And I think that TCU did that this year. And to me, that is one of the things that makes them so attractive, but they don't get the wow moment. They don't get it. They don't get and they defensive back, the Tomlinson kid is the Jim Thorpe Award winner. He, how many times do you hear about that? And that's not to take away from Georgia and what they've done, because Georgia is Georgia. And I'm like you. I love those coaches on that staff. And I think Kirby has done a fantastic job again. But there's something about, I can't call it Cinderella, Coach. And I know the media uses that terminology. But I can't call it Cinderella, because the nuts and bolts of what they do is the reason why they are, it ain't pretty. It's just steady. So how does TCU, Coach, I didn't think they were going to beat Michigan. I thought they could, but Michigan had the number one offensive line in the nation. And I watched a 3-3-5 defense. I mean, stuff them.
No doubt.
And Coach, tell me your thoughts. I know we lost Joel here with his Wi-Fi, and I know he'll get it back going. But Coach, tell me what it is about TCU's defense that, to me, I and that's where, I like to look at it from a defensive standpoint, because I still do believe defenses win championships, even though some people don't think that. But Coach, I was never a proponent of the 3-3-5, and I watched them whip some teams in that defense. And Coach, they got a true freshman, 18-year-old, Dominique Williams, starting at the nose guard. Tell me how proficient that is. What makes them special about how they run that defense?
Well, I've gone against that defense a lot. And, Jeff Herring at Camden County back in his heyday, they ran that 3-3-5 as good as anybody in the country.
Wow.
And I'm going to be honest with you, it was so hard to run the football against it. It took us several years to figure out how to attack a 33 stack. And if it's something you don't see a lot of,
gotcha,
it's hard. And because, they cancel gaps, and, they can come from so many. The issue with the 3-3 to me is that linebacker, that sits over the top of that defensive end on both sides. You got true nose, true Mike, and a true stack.
Right.
Now they're not a true stack all the time. I get that.
Gotcha.
But the problem is a lot of times it's hard to identify whether it's that linebacker or that pony nickel that sits out there. Also, they can interchange a lot. And what I see with TCU is everybody, there's a lot of players in their back half. They all look the same. And there's really good players. And I thought their team speed was better than I thought. When I played Michigan, it showed up. Their team speed on defense, especially, I thought was better than I'd seen during the year, or maybe I just didn't recognize it as much during the year. So I thought either Michigan is slower than I thought they were, or TCU is just much faster than I thought. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't think Michigan was ever in the game until the end. I thought TCU dominated the game, and I was shocked that they held up against the run very well.
Yeah.
But if you don't really go now, Michigan had 4 weeks to work on it.
Yes.
4 weeks. But let's trace back, and I don't know this answer of how many times Michigan has gone against the 3-3 stack or the 3-3 defense. I don't know that. And the flip side of that, how many times has Georgia faced the 3-3 stack? Because there's two factors to this week's game from that perspective is that
Right.
Georgia's going to see this 3-3, and they don't have 4 weeks to work on it or 2 weeks to work on it. They got 1 week. They got 1 week to work on it. So I guess we'd have to go back. I'm trying to think of another team in the SEC that they have played that run a true 33. Do y'all know one?
Well, I know that I don't think they played Ole Miss this year.
Because Ole Miss runs a 33.
Okay.
Right.
Ole Miss, I think Kentucky might run a little bit of it. But they don't play it the whole game. That's not their base defense.
The only one is
But if you remember, they had problems with Kentucky.
Yep. And Missouri.
They had slight problems with Kentucky.
And Missouri, because Missouri had a chance to beat Georgia.
And Missouri as well, yes.
So I think those two, I think when Sonny and them break Georgia down, those two games will be, now they'll look at all of them. We all know that.
Right.
But in a short period of work week, now they had, I guess they got 2 extra days.
Right.
You played on Saturday, you turn around and play on Monday, so you got 2 extra days to prepare.
Right.
So the issue is going to be is I would hope that they've studied, or I know TCU studied what Missouri and Kentucky did to slow down Georgia's offense. I know that.
Right.
And so, I can guarantee they're going to get some of their game plan based on that, based on their personnel. But, when you're searching on what slows Georgia's offense down, obviously you got to look who they played this year and who did the best job of that.
Right. And the credit to what you're mentioning about Coach Joel talking about Missouri and Kentucky and Kentucky game was a slobber knocker game. I mean, they just big and they come downhill and they're sturdy in the defensive line but Joel, now that you're back, I'm glad you got your Wi-Fi stuff straight. I want your thoughts on Coach Prost and his wisdom on what he saw in TCU this year is what we were talking about. And you get a chance to, like I was mentioning, they weren't the glamour team. Okay. Everybody was worried about Texas, and Sarkisian, and they had a phenomenal season. But that TCU defense held him to under 50 yards rushing the whole game. They held the Edwards kid from Michigan after that 54-yard run. They held him to only 69 yards rushing the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me your thoughts on TCU. What makes them tick and be the team that they are? Why are they here in your eyes from a defensive coordinator position?
I gotta be honest with you. I didn't catch a lot of Coach Pro's commentary because I was having issues.
Right.
But hopefully I'm not repeating anything he said. But
I'll tell you if you are.
TCU didn't really jump out to me until I saw them playing Baylor. And I just saw a team that just wouldn't give up, wouldn't lay down. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that game was lost and won by Baylor. But they won the game in the last couple of seconds of the ball game. And I just took a liking to the Max Duggan kid because I'm like, this kid is special. He may not be the perennial Power 5 quarterback that we're used to seeing, but he has a desire to win.
Right.
And that goes a long way with me. When they played Michigan, I just felt like Coach said, either Michigan is a lot slower than I thought they were because D. Winters and those guys were blitzing from the linebacker position, but they were delay blitzing. And I understand that delay blitzing to the open air, but damn, nobody picked them up. They had these guys looking like, I guess, all Americans, if you will. But having said that, I say this. That wasn't a fully loaded Michigan team either. They didn't have their true running back there. He was on the sideline on crutches.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you come to play the game, you got to play the game.
Right.
You got to play the game. But I just like what this team does. I really feel good about watching TCU. I really do. I mean, it's not like they haven't never won a national championship. They won one back it's a long time ago,
In the
1938.
Yeah.
So they've been there.
The leather helmets.
A lot of programs can't even say that though.
Yeah.
But I like TCU. I really do. I think their perimeter play, their perimeter offense is just second to none. They got some guys that can really go. And they got the Jim Thorpe Award winning defensive back on their team. I mean, the Tomlinson kid. I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with. Now, can they stay in that 3-3 stack against Georgia? Georgia's committed to running the ball. And if you don't, Georgia's not going to just let you sit back there and blitz them, even if it's a delayed blitz, and they're not going to have their linemen climbing up to that second level to those guys. So it's not going to be as easy as a lot of people think. And Georgia's running backs are a lot better than Michigan's running backs.
Definitely. Definitely. I think you made a big point. Another highlight thing that just when I see the 33 and identifying that odd French stuff, they didn't slant a whole lot. They really were sturdy. I mean, you got a kid that was 17 years old when the season started. Yeah, he played against Colorado, the Dominic Williams kid. But right. I'm watching their technique, Coach Prost and Coach Joel. I'm watching these three interior dudes, and I'm thinking, okay, week 33, they're going to blitz every play. That's not what they're doing. They are literally in a base attacking hands, feet, and they are bending Michigan backwards. Those three dudes are bending those people backward and holding their ground against what's supposed to be the top offensive line in the nation. They got the award. Coach Moore, top recognized at the top offensive line in the nation. And I'm watching this whole defense and what Coach Gillespie has. There is not a lot of slant. When I think about it, I'm thinking 33. Okay, they're hitting gaps. We got playing all game, and it's going to be all about hitting gaps, getting 45 degrees into a gap. Okay. But that's not what they're doing. And that's the part that got me, because they are playing tough base football. It's almost like they said, just like you said, Joel, we're gonna get base on you. But them dudes back there with the pony, first of all, just like you say, Coach Bros, they all look alike.
Yeah.
They look alike. And listen, there was only of those starters, there was only 3 kids that were a 4-star. Everybody else was 2-star and 3-star.
And remember 57 was a lacrosse player at Navy.
That's right.
He was a lacrosse player
Hodges,
this time last year.
Well, he the leading tackle on the team.
there you go.
Okay.
That's
and then
my point.
The winner's kid from either Fort Worth or Dallas or wherever he is, or outside of Dallas.
Animal.
But those kids running like the wind. And I thought early when I got a chance to watch those kids play, I thought those 3 interior backers were the best group together playing, married partners to each other as we talk football talk. Sports fans, I'm sorry. I'm with legendary Coach Russ Prost, man who's won national championships, high school championships in Georgia and Alabama. And I'm also here with Coach Joel Williams, won a state championship at Miami Norland down in Miami. And so we talking football. So for those that are watching the show, we really, if you hear some words, we're not cussing, we talking football talk. So we when you see us moving around a little bit, I know I get excited talking with my hands and everything. Wife told me I got to work on that, so I'm still working on it. But yeah, it's just the whole way that they play football. And sports fans, that's what we're talking about this, today, about what TCU has done. And why are we talking about TCU so much? Well, because everybody knows what Georgia's done. And with that being said, what are the strengths for Georgia coming into this game, Coach Prost? I mean, I'm gonna step in and let you take this over. I want to hear from you. What do you think? Because back in that Tennessee game when we talked, there were some things that you told me that could happen, how Georgia could attack Tennessee. And I watched that game, Coach Prost, and exactly what you said happened. happen. It was amazing, man. It was like you were out there, coach. I ain't gonna lie, and hell, I thought I was out there with you.
Well, I think to me the game is going to be made difficult, and I think a key to this game is Washington's health. The
Yeah.
tight end.
But I said,
If he's not able to play,
yes,
then they're down to two tight ends that have got a lot of experience, and they can play 12 personnel. But, what you got to understand about Georgia is I think going into the game for this game against this defense, I think tight end play will be a huge factor, whether they're in two tight ends, whether they're in a cluster tight end type, whether they're in a tight end wing set.
right.
I think you're going to get a multiple of 12 and 13 personnel. And I think they're going to try to wear down, with those three backs. One of them's my kid. Dejon Edwards played for me, and I'm proud of Dejon. He's had a heck of a year. But, to me, in these games, to attack that defense, because that defense there's not a lot of places to go with the ball in the intermediate part.
Right.
And then if they play three deep, and they're not always in three deep. I get that.
Right.
But that's hard to throw against too now. I mean, people try to tell you the book's to run the ball against it. There's things you got to do and you got to do. But the success I've had in it running the football against it has been in multiple tight ends. So
Gotcha.
I think
11 and 12 personnel.
Yeah, and I really think 12 and 13 is the key. I'm not, 11 a little bit, but I think you'll see Georgia in this ball game go with 12. And if Washington can play, you will see some 13 personnel. But you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, And I think that, if they're in 11 personnel, it'll be just about 85% throw. And because it is so difficult, I mean, just about impossible. It is impossible. Because when I first went against it in 2009, we went to Camden, and they beat us 19-10 in a semifinal game. Camden went ahead and won it the next week, blew the team out 30-0. But my point with all that is we stayed in 10 personnel all night. And I went back and looked at that tape 100,000 times and said, we will never, ever do that again. So when we saw them again in 11 and 12, back to back, they're ranked 5th in the nation one year, 7th in the nation the next year. They had that Arthur Johnson. That was an all SEC player at Florida. He studied at that Mike Backer. I said, we're going to take and attack them with multiple tight ends. And here's another key: hard play action. And I think there's times for RPOs. Don't get me wrong. There's time for an RPO. But I think you're going to see a lot of hard play, especially if they can establish out of multiple tight ends. If they can establish a run, and where TCU got to commit more because they keep it a fresh back end all the time. Right. But let's don't kid ourselves, guys. Coach Monken is going to showcase his quarterback. I mean, Stetson had a phenomenal year, and he's led them. And, where he would steal last year, would make huge mistakes that could have cost him ball games. Right. He's gotten out of that. He's not doing a lot of that. I think he's a much confident player, a lot better player. And I think he will be the difference in the game. The multiple tight ends, the play action passing, they'll take their shots downfield. Don't get me wrong. But I think, and Stetson's ability to complete balls downfield, that could be the difference in the game. And TCU, now let's understand one other thing. First down, second down is crucial. Because if TCU can keep Georgia in a third and long situation, and I'm talking 3rd and 7 or better, or 3rd and 6 or better for that matter. If it's 3rd and 6 or better, and that's the majority of the game, then TCU can win the game. And I think that's the stat you better look at. And I get turnovers. I get special teams. I get all that stuff. the key to the game is Georgia's ability to be very successful on first and second down and stay out of third down and long, because anybody you getting third and long.
Right.
Now you want to talk about trying to complete balls against that crap. I mean, it's hard to do it, and you got to be able to complete balls on, first down, second down, out of play action, and you got to hit some balls, and you got multiple tight ends, and they're hard to cover. I'll just be honest with you.
Well, I tell you this, and I want to pass this on to your thoughts too, Joel, because talking about that difficulty Georgia's going to have, like you said, if Washington does not play, keep in mind, Brock Bowers was not a key part of the game against Ohio State until the late. I mean, he didn't early. He wasn't even part of the game. Whatever they did to shut him down, and whatever scheme that Ohio State came with to alleviate him was significant. So your thoughts on how Georgia's going to be able to attack this TCU defense?
I mean, again, I agree with the attached tight end, 11, 12, 13 personnel, and you just got to go right at them, because once you declare with those tight ends, it takes away a lot of things that you normally do in that 3-3 stack to get ball pressure on the quarterback. So a lot of that stuff they're going to take away early, and now you can do what you love to do, and that's run the ball. And they run the ball very, very well. And I just honestly believe TCU is going to have a problem with Georgia's with their front five, because those are some big men.
Okay, those
are some big men. They haven't seen the likes of those guys. They don't see that. They don't see that kind of stuff in the 12 over there. They don't see that kind of stuff over there. These are some big men that they're going to be playing against. And when you couple that with attaching a tight end, and now I can't do a lot of my interior stuff. I can't do a lot of my outside stuff and bringing pressure. Now I got to command a different kind of coverage in the back seven. You're going to see Georgia moving the ball downfield. And not to mention, Stetson is spinning the ball a heck of a lot better than he did last year.
No doubt.
He's spinning a heck of a lot better.
He is. I agree.
I just feel like if they take TCU out of their 3 front, if they take them out of that Okie front, and now they have to play a 4-man front, advantage Georgia.
Well, Georgia. No, Coach, that's exactly what they're going to do, because that's that. Think about this now. When you line up with 2 tight ends and then a wing back or 2 tight, or
you have to respect it.
I mean, they're not. They're going to have to come out of the Okie look. They'll have to go to a 4-man front.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
But advantage Georgia, right, Coach?
And no question, advantage Georgia.
Right.
So, and to both of you all's points, TCU's defense, I mean, even though we're talking about the Jim Thorpe winner, but you've got guys in that secondary, Bud Clark, who leads the team in interception with 5, but they got 14 picks back there, guys, and they run a lot back for touchdowns. But here's the fascinating part of watching TCU, and y'all know this, they are susceptible to the deep throw. They've been beat a lot. And for a team that runs that 33 stack deal there, they give up a lot of they played a little more man than I thought. But they give up a lot of deep balls. So how in the world, to me, this is what gets me, coaches. Y'all help me with this, because how in the heck you got 5 back there in coverage and you still getting beat deep? Beat deep. I mean, your eye discipline. And you know me, Joel, that's always been my big deal. Eye discipline in that secondary and who you're supposed to read and why. Some kids, even to this elite level, have a problem with the vertical and eye discipline and when to read the quarterback's eyes, when to route read, and the coverage, things of that nature. That is something that gets me, because I can't figure out how, if you already lined up 12 yards deep, how in the heck are you getting beat deep if you in zone coverage, if you got your zone? I mean, that's
because you're talking about TCU, right?
Yeah, I mean, but they keep getting beat deep, but it's crazy because near the end of the game, they swell up, and whatever they got wrong, watch this, guys, whatever they got wrong, they don't get it wrong no more at the end of the game. It's almost like a kumbaya. Okay, guys, y'all know we messed this up. You got this, we messed this up. Okay, so let's fix it, and now we won't mess that up anymore.
That's TCU. That's their mantra. That's what they do. They'll give up the long ball. They'll give up these intermediate things. They'll give those things up, but at the end of the day, when it's time to tighten up, they just find a way to get the job done.
They do.
And that's them.
No, they do, Coach. They do.
And they don't start the blame game. They don't point the fingers. They don't hold their head down. They know that based on the defense that they play, these kind of things are going to happen. The problem with on Monday is going to be now we have to play the run because this is going to be a big deal. Once Georgia establishes the run and they have to bring that extra lineman in, it's going to take away from what they're used to doing all year long.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a different play back there. You're going to probably see a lot of, I don't know if they run a cover 8 back there. I don't know. But you'll definitely see a lot of cover. You'll see a lot of man. You'll see a lot of hard cover 2. And you'll see things like that. But then you're going to have guys like Bowers who lines up in the slot, and you get some 5'11" guy up on it. I don't know how big their guys are in the back 7. But then Bowers is going to start showcasing. And not to mention, if Washington comes back, he definitely is going to be a nightmare for whoever has to guard him.
No doubt.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we've talked about Georgia's offense against TCU's defense. Let's flip it over, fellas, and let's get to the other side of the ball. You know, I love watching Georgia's defense. Just the way that they tackle so well in space. I think that's something that we all can agree. They do that to the elite level. Hats off to all those guys on the defense side of the ball and Coach Smart. But guys, I'm saying, I'm gonna go ahead and say it because I said it. I've been saying it, and now this is the coach. It wasn't just the fan part of me, but the coach part of me is saying this too. Had Marvin Harrison not gotten knocked out of that game, that game would have had a different deal to it because Georgia got torched by him. It was unbelievable, and I'm not used to seeing Georgia get torched like that. And
one of my coaches at practice this morning, he made a statement, and he's a Georgia guy. He made a statement that Georgia always lucks out in these games, and I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Coach, he had a timeline of things that Georgia that happened that worked out in Georgia's favor." But when he said the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing, I was like, you know what? Marvin Harrison Jr. was on his way. He was on his way. You're absolutely right. And these things work out for Georgia in their favor. But at the end of the day, the football gods are always looking down on the Georgias and the Alabamas. And that's just the way it is. Until that changes, until my Miami Hurricanes get back right, that's where the football gods live.
I knew you was gonna hit it. Sooner or later, I'm gonna get football gods out of you, man. You know me and you've been working together a bit.
Yeah.
Coach Pros, your thought on it, because I wanted to know what y'all thought, because Marvin Harrison Jr. put on a clinic. And I've never seen Georgia burn that much in the secondary. He had too much time to throw the ball. CJ Stroud did. What's your thoughts, Coach?
No, I mean, I'm a little different on it in the fact that I mean, Georgia, Ohio State took a little bit about Alabama. I mean, Bryce Young ate their butt alive last year in the SEC championship game now.
Right.
And you're right. If Mechie, and I'll go ahead and say this, and I don't care, I'll argue with any Georgia fan out there. If Mechie and Williams don't get hurt for Alabama last year,
That's it last year right there, Coach.
Alabama not only beats them the second time, they beat them by 2 scores. They win the national championship going away because they were not going to stop them. So now you lose Harrison. So they have benefited 2 years in a row. And do I think Georgia is a great program? Yes. Is it the best program in college football right now? Absolutely. Got no, you won't hear that argument. Because I can go back and look at Alabama, some of its national championship games. And everybody knows I'm an Alabama fan, and they benefited from some luck in some of those games, And so I think, if you and we both, I have been in 12 championship ball games.
Yeah.
And so as a coach, and it's actually been in 13. 1 as an assistant and 12 as a head coach. And then I've watched my son play the last 2 state championship games as a dad. So I have personally had looked at 15 of them. And you know, there's so many times that whether you call it football gods or whether you call it the luck of the Irish or whatever, I'm gonna tell you something, man. It's just there's times where you just scratch your head and go, man, how did they lose that ball game? And I still don't know how Ohio State lost last week. First thing that happens, the DB falls down. They're up 14, and the DB runs down the field, and the quarterback for Ohio State just falls down for a touchdown. And so, but I agree. I think that if Harrison doesn't get hurt, I do not think Georgia wins last week.
And the tight end got hurt too.
And the tight end
take him straight to the hospital.
And they had a running back that got hurt or didn't play. So
that's right. That's right.
Several people out, and so Georgia's benefited from that. No question about it. But at the same token, I still think they're the best team, and I think they're the best team in the nation. Right. So you do have to have a little bit of luck, and things have to be on your side sometimes.
Right.
And so, but I just believe that you can move the ball on Georgia this year, especially if you throw the football. Yeah. If you can throw the football with accuracy.
Right.
Now, granted, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud are two elite quarterbacks.
Top of the food
I'm not
chain.
sure TCU's quarterback is elite like they are in throwing the football.
Right.
He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's tough. He's hard-nosed. He's a winner. He finds ways to win, and he may find a way Monday night to win.
Right.
But, you know, if you TCU and Sonny, you got to look at the Alabama tape. You got to look at the Ohio State tape and develop some things in the throw game that you think you can do to pose a problem for them. Because if you're kidding yourself, if you think you're going to line up and just run the ball down Georgia's throat, you're just not going to do that. You're just not. I mean, that just ain't going to happen. I mean, Georgia's so physical.
Yeah.
And they're the most physical team in the country.
Yes.
They're the best defense I've seen stopping the run in the country.
Yeah.
And the only shot you got is you better be able to complete balls downfield.
Right. And throw them deep. I mean, they have been susceptible to deep throws as well. And it's just funny to watch, you know, Keely Ringo, the corner back there, who I don't know why people keep trying him all the time. It's just amazing. He's left on that island by himself. I had the pleasure of coaching his father, Kelton Ringo, at Columbia High School back in the day. My claim to fame is I was only 3 when I was coaching him. That's age-wise, that's my claim to fame. I was 3.
Yeah.
And he wasn't tall. He wasn't that tall.
Ringo to me is a great athlete, and
yeah.
And then they got that safety too.
Yes, Smith kid, I think.
Yeah, I think Smith kid. But the other two are susceptible to some things, and you know, and they're nickel. And I think, you know, but to me, if TCU is going to be successful, they're going to have to try to be as balanced as they can.
Right.
But I think a heavy dose, I think they've got to be 65% throw, at least 65% throw to win this game.
And funny you mention that because we both watched Georgia play, and I love to watch Kirby blitz, and it was what you called for the you know, the Tennessee Vol game, Coach Prost. You called it, and I went back to work and I talked trash to all my co-workers because I was like, you know, well, if you're listening to what Coach Prost said, this was happening. Well, what I noticed in the game, and Joel, tell me if you noticed this about the Georgia game, Kirby did not blitz as much as he usually does. He played
a lot of vanilla ball.
And I didn't see the pressure, and I'm not saying it was a fear of C.J. Stroud, but I think that it was more of, hey, look, I got to pick my poison. I'd rather go into coverage against Marvin Harrison Jr. and the rest of them dudes. And because it was too many times that C.J. Stroud had 6 seconds to throw the ball. And, you know, that's just, you know, Joel, you remember how I was, even at Lovejoy, you know, you got 1.8 seconds. People thought I was crazy. But at Lovejoy, that's what I got the kids to believe in that, hey, man, we covering, we in cover 0, and the quarterback got 1.8 and 6 coming, 6 or 7. But I watched CJ Stroud have so much time. I'm just wondering, because that wasn't the typical Kirby Smart, and he didn't do that against Tennessee. He came at Tennessee and he shortened it up. He made them get rid of the ball. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, he's not going to be able to do that against TCU either, because if they're running a lot of cover 1 in the back 7, that guy's going to pull it down and just use his legs, because that's what he does. He's a blue collar worker. He's going to go and get those. He's going to go get those goddamn easy yards. And when you got those DBs and stuff with their backs turned running down the field, he's going to go and get that. Now with CJ, see, there's more of a clinician. I put CJ. I mean, you may think I'm wrong with saying this, but I think I put CJ. He doesn't spin it as well as Bryce, but I put them in the same kind of category with this, same kind of category, if you will. I'm not a quarterback guy by no means, but when I see CJ, he kind of puts me in the mind of Bryce Young.
He does me too. I mean,
he got eyes behind his head.
That stuff. That stuff. But like I say, Kirby is gonna do what Kirby does. Now I don't think Kirby's gonna have a problem. He may send some 5-man pressures. He may even douse it with some 6-man pressures. But one thing they're not gonna have a real problem with is the running game of TCU. Not with the running back quarterback. I mean, not with the running back itself.
But the quarterback.
The quarterback, yes. You're going to see a lot of screens. You're going to see a lot of bubbles and stuff like that. But Georgia perimeter defense is phenomenal. Those guys are fast.
Very fast.
When I look at Max Duggan, I think about Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. Big, gritty, got an arm, but he will tuck it and try to run you over. Not necessarily going to take.
And he wants to win. He wants to win.
Man.
He doesn't care who it is.
This last stat I want to leave with y'all that I found, I talked about on my preview was just TCU. Just some things that popped out to me. Of their 22 starters, 8 of them have played 30 plus collegiate football games, and 11 of them have played 20 plus collegiate football games. And to top that off, those 5 offensive linemen, if they start the game on Monday, they as a total have had 75 starts between all of them in one season, guys. That means nobody's been hurt, nobody's been injured. And when we think about TCU, those are those little intricacies that we see, but the normal fan is not thinking about that, and those things might be the things that the whole don't flinch, prepare for the next play, and just grittiness. And I agree with both of y'all, man. Georgia is the player for player, the most talented team. But who's playing well at this time is amazing. And if I have to think about that, and I love the coaches on the Georgia staff, but that the domination I saw was in the TCU Michigan game, even though it was still a lot of points. So with that being said, I need you guys to give me. We want to close on what the score is going to be. Joel, I want you to tell me what your prediction is on the score, and I want you to tell me how you think this game is going to end up. What's going to be the game breaker and the change of this game? Let's close it out like that. I'm going to start with you, then I'm going to go with Coach Russ Pro.
I think with TCU, they're going to have a problem with Georgia's defensive line, first of all. Because that's going to be the biggest and the best defensive line they faced all year, first of all. Right. But I think TCU's they're going to compete. They're not going to lay down. But I just think the overwhelming part of Georgia's success in the football gods, Georgia's going to prevail. The final score probably be something in the light of 31-10 or 31-17, something like that.
Wow.
Georgia.
Wow. So you think they're going to shut them out that much?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because like I said, they're going to have an answer. Georgia's going to have an answer for what TCU does. TCU has a lot of film that's out there from this year. I think they're going to get the most success from watching the Baylor film because they threw the kitchen sink at Baylor to get that win.
Gotcha.
And like I say, they don't give up. They don't stop. And Georgia is a good football team. They're going to be able to stop the run. They're going to go 12. They're going to go 12. Coach said 13, and they're going to have problems dealing with those tight ends because they haven't seen that. But if you want to know what the kryptonite is to a 3-3 defense, run 12 and 13 personnel. That's the kryptonite.
Woo. All right. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Georgia,
right
31-10 or 31-17.
I'm 31-10 is what you said?
Yes, or 31-17. Let's say 31-17.
Okay. Coach Pros, your turn.
I'm similar. I'm similar in the same token. I think TCU's going to have a hard time defending that. And here's the other thing, too, guys, that I noticed. I thought Georgia got winded the other day.
Ooh, yes.
I thought they got wind. I thought their D-line, Dalen Carter was not a factor in the game. And I thought they got winded. So the key to the game to me for TCU to hang with Georgia is how successful are them to stay on the field, convert third downs, run a lot of tempo, and be able to keep Georgia on the field and wear them down. That's the only shot they got. And with that being said, if they can't do that, then they're gonna get beat pretty good. And so I think the game will be closer than you think. But I do think Georgia gets it and extends it at the end, in the fourth quarter, because Kirby did not blitz a lot this week, and I'm gonna tell you why. He's going to play a lot of zone coverage, and he did it at Alabama, and he's done it at Georgia whenever he plays a very athletic quarterback because of what you said. If MDBs are running in man coverage and they're running all around, and all of a sudden here comes that quarterback tucking it and running it for yards, So that's why he played a lot of zone last week. I think this week he's going to go back. He will play some zero man or some man free. He will bring exotic blitz, some exotic blitz. I think he'll blitz more than he did last week. And I think you'll see that more. And with that being said, I think Georgia wins 38-23, 38-24. I'm going to say 38-24.
38-24, right, Coach?
Yep. 38-20.
Because sports fans, you do know we're gonna get together after this game, and I'm gonna have my guys on. Okay, so
Vegas has it a lot closer than that.
Okay, what does Vegas have?
Believe it or not, Vegas has it 42-37.
Oh wow,
really?
Vegas.
Yeah.
But didn't the line come out at 13.5?
It came out at 13, but I think it's changed since then.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with Washington too. Now, I will retract my statement on that. If Washington didn't play, then I think you're looking at more like a 31-24 ball game. I think it could be a one-score game, now. I think it could be down to that one-score game. But
you're still saying Georgia wins?
No, I think Georgia wins, but I think it's a one-score game, somewhere between 3 and 7 points if Washington does not play.
Gotcha. Ooh, boy, listen, you guys have topped me on my thought, but I had to, so listen, I had to cheat since I'm the host of the show. I had to cheat. I'm just going to tell you, I had a fan score. There's a fan part of me, and all my viewers that watch me know sometimes the fan part of me talks, especially when we talk in Alabama. And then the coach part of me is the reality and the breaking down the actual game. Okay, so I've learned because even though I am a Bama fan, my tax dollars do go to Georgia since I live here in Atlanta. I mean, they do go to Georgia, so I must admit that. So with that being said, the fan part of me said it's Georgia 40, TCU 28. if Georgia, and I'm saying that with the thought that Washington is playing and Georgia gets Brock Bowers started early in the game out of those same 13 and 12 personnel that you guys have been talking about, as well as Kirby blitzes them early in the first half. And then when they come out for the second half, coach has made his adjustments at TCU, and then Kirby does not blitz the second half of the game. He gives the kitchen sink the first 2 quarters just to get the offense, the quarterback, off his mark. That's just my thought process in the fan part of it, because Georgia has got that swag to win another one, and they, including me, they proved me wrong on being a even better team. When none of the big names, from last year, they had the greatest front seven in college football history, some would argue, and definitely top 2 ever. And they don't have that anymore. They got Jalen Carter there, but like you said, Coach, Jalen Carter didn't do a whole lot. He irritated Ohio State, but it wasn't what we used to watching Georgia do. However, I think that their swag and their attention to the moment and going back to back, I think that the fan in me says that Kirby can get them ready for that to win. Now, the coach in me, y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this? Coach in me says, the coach in me, the whistle and the hat, 38-35, last play of the game is going to be a field goal. TCU wins.
Really?
TCU is going to take the air out the ball. They're going to slow this game down. They're going to try to attack Georgia. See, it's almost like that when you play Madden. You remember how you play, we didn't play Madden, but, the kids play Madden and they got the rankings. The, offense is 98%, defense is 92%, and special teams is, 80%. TCU is level all the way across. Nothing outshines the other part of their game. They make big plays in big situations at big times. And usually their stuff goes back as touchdowns. I think that they're going to, the same thing that y'all have mentioned, this 3-3 stack is going to give Georgia some problems. Washington's not playing, and they can't get number 19 off and running. Brock Bowers off and running. I think that TCU, out of all the teams they played, they've never played anybody like Georgia, never, and they never will. But their kids aren't afraid. Those kids from Dallas, Houston area, Fort Worth, Texas, they're not flinching. I think that the senior leadership, all those 5th-year, 6-year seniors, I think it's going to prevail in the end. I think Georgia is going to be too emotionally drained from what they just did against Ohio State.
Tough. There ain't no doubt it's tough now.
Yeah, that is tough.
I just don't see how. I'm not saying Kirby can't get them back revved up, but y'all both know you can be revved up for the first half and second half and first quarter, second quarter. But when you go sit for 25, 30 minutes at halftime and you got to come back out and play a game, are you still high like that?
Well, I from my own personal experience in 18, y'all know this, we had the best team in the state of Georgia. It wasn't even close.
Right.
We played 15 ball games that year. Now, we were coming off a last-minute Hail Mary pass interference called against us and having 2 men on the field, an untimed down field goal that beat us the year before in the state championship. That's after the snowed out in the dome.
Right.
In 17. Well, in 18, we played 15 ball games. We had a running clock in 12 ball games out of the original 14 games. So from the first ball game to the semifinal, we had 2 ball games. We played Grayson at Grayson and won by 2 touchdowns. So that wasn't a running clock. We played Archer in a semifinal, and we beat them in overtime. Had to kick a field goal to get to overtime. That's the night we did not score a touchdown And Ryan Fitzgerald, the kid at Florida State who just beat Oklahoma the other night,
Yep.
he kicked 5 field goals in that game to get us to overtime, and we scored a touchdown. They scored a touchdown. We blocked a PAT to win the game. That game was so emotional, the semifinal game, and you got to think about it. We had not been in a we beat North Gwinnett that quarterfinal 49-0.
Yep.
And we had peaked that night. We were in an emotional ball game the next week versus Archer, came out on top. When we went to the next week playing Milton, we had no emotion, zero emotion. I've never seen a team 14-0 that lost the state championship the year before on a fluke,
right,
to just go into a ball game with no emotion.
Right.
And I've tried to understand, what did I do that week? Well, if y'all remember, the game was delayed. We had to play it on a Wednesday after Christmas.
That's right.
And so because of the hurricane that year.
Yep.
And so I don't know that I Joey King and I talked about it. He was at Cartersville. They didn't play very well in it either. And we didn't either. And we sort of got together and said, hey, let's look at our practice schedule and how to practice.
Right.
And I think I messed it up. I mean, I really do think I messed up the preparation, but we had no emotion. It was flat in the dressing room. It was flat at warm up. It was flat at halftime. I've never seen anything like it, guys, in all my life. And we get beat 14-13. And so, and you know what I've noticed, guys, and this is a little bit off subject, but one thing I've noticed in football here lately, and I've lost 2 state championships back to back because I did not take some field goals in ball games when I should have. And I've
left points on the field.
And I've left points on the field. And I'm gonna say this about the championship game, and I'll refer it back to Monday night. You ain't gonna, in a normal ball game, you ain't gonna have about 5, maybe if you're lucky, 6 scoring opportunities.
Right.
You better get points. Because in 17, we had a chance to kick a field goal right before half. We didn't. My coaches talked me out of it, and we didn't get anything. Well, we lose by 1 point.
1 point. That's right.
All right. So you go to the 18 state championship, same situation. We take the opening drive, we get down there, and we throw on 3rd and 7 on the first drive when I should have just been conservative, and we threw a dang goofy screen pass, which was dumb, and we get it picked off. And we should have been more conservative, kick the field goal.
Kick the field goal.
We win the game. That was the first drive of the game. Or we had the ball 1st and goal at the 1 and don't come away with points. So that, to me, in a close ball game, and that could play into Monday night's game if both defenses come to play.
Right.
And it becomes a 21-17 game.
Right.
It becomes that kind of game. Then there'll be those decisions made by Sonny, by Kirby, because a lot of times you think about it, if you're not in a lot of those games,
right,
and you don't understand them, those things can be very hairy at times, especially in championship ball games. I've seen it too many times, and NFL games and college games and high school games, and you sometimes just got to take points and be smart about what all these people now. I watched Lane Kiffin in the bowl game go for it first 5 or 6 times on that 4th down, and he was 0 for 6 on 4th down.
But he did that all season, Coach.
I know, and those analytics, I just don't. I think there's a gut call, a gut feeling that tells me whether to go for it or not. I'm not going to sit and look at the analytics. I've been in enough ball games, over 400 I've coached as a head coach. I'm going to sit there and use my gut whenever to take points. And I can refer back to the times that I've screwed it up. And, if you get yourself in that situation again, you just got to be a little times in championship games, can be a little more conservative, in my opinion.
Wow.
But in that respect, Coach, how do you not allow the emotion of the moment to affect your decision?
I've just got experience of being 31 years as a head football coach. I think that I learned, and and I go back and look, I didn't do that. And we beat Archer 28-24 and 14 for the state championship. Listen to this. We scored 28. So guess how many times we was in the red zone? Four times. 4 times. The whole night. 4 times. Archer was inside our red zone, and they had 7 times inside our red zone and scored 4 times. 4 of 7, we were 4 for 4. And so, and then in 15, Roswell, we were inside the red zone. We kicked, if you remember that night, we kicked 3 or 4 field goals that night.
Right.
And every time we get down there, because I knew our defense was pretty good, so we ended up winning 30-13, but we kicked 4 field goals.
Right.
And so, sometimes you just have to win pretty. And we beat Daphne one year in the state championship game over in Legion Field. To win my 3rd one over here, 21-18, and again, we didn't score a conventional point. And sometimes you just got to find ways to score. And it's a busted play. It's a special teams play. It's a Bill and I had a war one time at Prattville, and we block a punt and return it for a kick, return it for a touchdown. Those kinds of things. So sometimes you got to be able to manage the ugly games, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, let me ask you this, Coach. How do you manage what happened to Cedar Grove in the state championship?
Oh my God. Oh.
Gee, my knees. I seriously about threw up. And to be honest with you guys, I go back to last year. Who was it that didn't manage the clock? They won it this year. So Langston Hughes. It's Langston Hughes.
Langston Hughes won it, yeah.
Yeah, Langston Hughes last year, they were 35 seconds, and they're at about the 27-yard line, and they let about 25 seconds run off the clock.
Yeah.
and it cost them the ball game. And boy, I felt terrible for those guys. It was bad clock management, and I think he learned his lesson.
He did,
and came back the next year and had a great year and
took care of business. Yes,
but when you look at that stuff like happened to Cedar Grove and what happened to Langston Hughes the year before, it's just but this again, it's high school kids.
Yeah,
and something that I do in coaching that if I ever wrote a book or and I probably will one day.
Yeah, I was going to say I think you need to, Coach.
Well, I'm going to get back in coaching. I'm actually interviewing for the 3rd time tomorrow at a job, and I got to take it. I think You
care to share?
No, not yet, because I got some other things out there going too. But so I've got to. I got to do some soul searching over the weekend, but I think I'm going to end up taking this job just because I need to get back in, and I'm tired of dragging these people along. But anyway, I just learned a lot over the years, and with just different scenarios.
Right.
But the one thing I have learned, and I see a lot of people don't do, is every Thursday, and a lot of times on Wednesday too, a lot of people just work the 2-minute drill.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of times that I spend Sunday in the 2-minute offense. Wednesday, we go to a 45-second or 49-second offense,
mm-hmm.
With no timeouts or one time. But here's another thing I work a lot on Thursdays. Every week I change it. So this week it'll be 1st and goal at the 6 with no timeouts and 15 seconds.
Oh my gosh!
It'll be 1st and goal from the 3.5 with 12 seconds, no timeouts.
Right.
So I'm gonna work a no timeout situation inside the 10 nearly every week, because here's why I do that. In the 49-second drill that I do on Wednesday, and I call it 49-second drill because just for a wild reason, but it don't make any sense. But we do a 49-second drill, and I usually have a timeout with that.
Right.
And we'll start sometimes at our own 20, sometimes we'll start at our own 30, sometimes start at our own 5, sometimes we'll start at midfield. Just each week that changes. And sometimes I'll take it to 55 seconds, sometimes I'll take it down to 35 seconds. But I always do it with a one timeout because I want it to be as stressful as it can be.
Right.
But that short clock, or not short clock, but that short time, that 18-second to 10 seconds with no timeout drill on Thursday. So I've hit every scenario by going long 2-minute drill, the 1-minute drill, or the 49-second drill,
Right.
and then the inside of 20-second, or I call it inside of 18-second drill with no timeout. So though, if you do those things, you'll train your quarterback to not take sacks, to throw the ball away.
Right.
And you got to have a 3-second play. You got to have a 4-second play. You got to know where to throw the ball with a 3-second play. You got to know where to throw the ball with a 4-second play.
Wow.
And stuff like that to manage the clock. Because if you're at the 2-yard line, first and goal with 10 seconds, I can squeeze 4 plays out of that. And so, because on the 4th down, if I want to run the football, it don't matter if it's 1 second to go.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So there's always that threat you can run it. So, so we work that stuff a lot, and it's benefited us over the years. It really has.
Well, Coach, after I had the face shed Lovejoy and you ran that daggum trick, I'll never forget that. And I'm still in therapy over it, Coach. I'm getting better, but
what did he do to you, Coach?
Coach, he took his tackle and lined him up in trips right. He took his left tackle and had him bent over so you couldn't see his numbers. And he was number 3 receiver. He was bent down. And I was in, me, Joel. I was in 0 because that's what our kids did well. And if I did anything else, they looked.
Don't tell me.
So we forgot about that. My kid on the nub side thought that was the tackle, but that was the tight end.
Yeah.
So he play action me, and that tight end was lined up at left tackle, and he scored a touchdown down there. And they beat us in a game that Coach was standing room only, and he tried to get me out of that 0 and that 50, and
running that jackbacker.
I wasn't budging, and it was a great game, and I ain't never forgot that, Coach. But I made sure that I practiced that all the time.
The key to that play, Coach, is you got to have a backup tight end that you don't recognize his number. Number 1, it comes in the game. Number 2,
it was a backup tight end.
Yeah, the backup tight end. And number 2 is you got to teach the kid not to show his number as he's going to the line of scrimmage. So he's got to bend over like he's sick, like he's got a stomach ache, and he goes to the line of scrimmage with, like I'm bent over. Like
that almost sounds like that play Bull that you put in at Columbia. I think you called it the layout where they break the huddle. Yeah. And the kids run acting as if he's running off the field like there's too many in the huddle. Yeah. And he just stands right there next to you at the sideline. You act like you're blessing him out.
Yeah.
Ball snaps and he runs up the field and scores.
Yeah, we did that against what's your guy's name at Washington High School? I can't say his name. Successful coach over there.
Yeah, the son playing, right?
Yeah. And we did that against Washington High School, them legendary days. Well, guys, I thank you for
but right quick, just to piggyback on what your prediction, your coaching prediction.
Yes.
If TCU is able to keep Georgia behind the sticks, and what I mean behind the sticks, Coach mentioned it earlier, they got a shot.
Yeah. There's something about their makeup that I'm interested in watching them go against a team that's more athletic than them, and the peaks and valleys of the game. How is TCU going to respond? And I just don't see how, from the coach in me, how Georgia's going to be up again for the way that game ended last week. Can they go through that Hollywood moment again with the peaks and valleys? But I just think that the steady course, I just think the coach in me sees TCU, and I think that Georgia's offense is going to have problems with that 33 there for a minute. But by the time they figure it out, it might be too late. So, guys, we're going to get back after this game over with, because I want to get play by play on what y'all saw, and so if we saw the same thing. So I just want
there's another thing too now, and it's not a major factor, but it is a little bit. When you look at NFL stats, there's a lot of it's a little bit different from flying from Fort Worth, Dallas to Los Angeles than it is from Atlanta to Los
Boy.
Angeles. It's an extra 2.5 hours. So,
But don't you think they're already there? Correct? You think they're
no,
already
They
there?
left
Right?
today.
They're leaving tomorrow.
Leaving
Georgia
tomorrow.
leaving
Okay.
tomorrow.
Well, it's totally different. And they got to get ready and deal with the jet lag and all that stuff, all those little incidentals that happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing works out. I love it because the nuggets that you gave, Coach, on just some things that you do. And I got so many coaches that watch this. It's amazing, Joel. I don't find out how many people really watch my podcast, coaches, that is.
I'm just realizing that I met Coach Prod at a coaching clinic 1 year when he was at Hoover.
Okay.
Many moons ago.
Really?
And as I'm listening to him talk, and I say, I know this voice. I know this voice. Same guy, same canny guy. Oh my God. But I would love to know that job that you're gonna take, because when you take it next year, I need you to give us a game down here. So we'll come up to you if you're coming down to us the next year.
No, I want to come down and coach down in South. You didn't find me down in South Florida.
Well, come on, baby. We waited for you. We're ready for you. Come on.
Hey, you got to float my name out there to some people. I can guarantee you, my wife would love me to come to Miami. I promise you that.
You think she'll stay on the beach?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my God, Joel, don't. I tell you, my son is already down there.
Yes.
So it won't take much to pull me down there.
Well, I want you down there so we can get back together and do some good stuff.
Oh man, I learned so much.
You know what I've been trying to do, and I know you did it for a couple of years, but make that Georgia-Florida game big again, that All-Star game big again.
Mm-hmm.
That used to be a big game back in the day.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And I tell you, it's great for the kids. I don't know how now with all this portal stuff and everybody graduating early, leaving in December, but there's still enough kids. The biggest thing, and both of y'all I know would agree, it's about the kids. Just and these kids get a chance to showcase their talents.
Let me tell you something. With all these kids at this All-Star game, over half of them already have D2 or D1 offers. Maybe the smaller MAC offers and things like that. And the message to them from us, if you haven't committed, you better commit, because don't you see what's going on around you?
Yep.
So you need to go ahead and commit.
Stop going through the circus, the charades, and go ahead. I got a kid right now. I'm just praying I get a call that he's committed, because he's in the portal and
You talking about the big lineman?
Yeah, I'm just praying that he made a commitment, because he's getting this gray hair right here is because of him, or the thin spot is here, but the gray hair is because of him. But I love him like a son anyway. But yeah, I guys, we're gonna get back together after this game, and we're gonna get a chance to enjoy it. Once again, Coach Joel Williams, my brother from another mother, also Coach Prost, the man, the myth, the legend, man. I love talking football with y'all, man. And just thank you for giving me this time.
I'm just glad to know that I'm sitting in the midst of a guy who's coached 400 freaking football games.
I'm
Jesus
old, guys.
Christ.
I'm old.
400.
Yeah.
And he still got it.
Yeah, he still got it. Yeah, Coach. Coach. He still got it, Coach. He still got it. Yeah, Coach.
Y'all take care.
You too, Coach.
Thank you so much, guys.
Love you both.
Love you too, Coach.
Thank you so much for you guys being with me tonight. Once again, subscribe, like, share, comment, whichever one. Thank you once again for watching Coach One Sports with yours truly, Coach Kevin Bull Jones. We'll see you later.